Λοιπόν, καλησπέρα σε όλους. Ευχαριστώ που έχετε παραμείνει στην αίθουσα. Θα αλλάξουμε τη συζήτηση στην αγγλική γλώσσα, επειδή έχουμε και μια ξένη καλεσμένη, έτσι να ξεκουραστούν και οι μεταφραστές. So we switch to the English language, and we have a very interesting panel here today. We have, I'll just briefly introduce them. Miss Ilona Taillade, she describes herself as a serial entrepreneur. She's based in Amsterdam and an expert on retail and branding, and founder and CEO of Six & Sons, a digital retail platform, and also owner of the Real Estate Europe, which is a site which covers trends and issues in the real estate market across Europe and the UK. We have Mr. Dimitris Vlachopoulos, who's international partner, head of portfolio and location strategy, EMEA at Cushman and Wakefield. Dimitris advises corporate real estate occupiers on where in the world and in which city to locate their operations and how to optimize their retail footprint. And we also have Mr. Alexis Vandoros, who I would describe as a serial entrepreneur. He's an architect by profession and CEO of Wealth Avenue, part of the global wealth group, which invests in mainly residential real estate in Greece, and also developed the Varco group of companies. So, just a very brief introduction. There's a number of trends currently impacting the real estate market across the world, across Europe, and in Greece, obviously. We have geopolitical risks we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing some macroeconomic uncertainty. We still have high cost of debt. And added to this is a number of other issues like decarbonization, digitalization, deglobalization, as well as changing demographics. We've seen over the past year in Europe investment volumes in real estate across most, particularly commercial sectors, were down. And also we saw some price adjustments in the main European markets due to high interest rates. The situation seems to be turning a corner. We've seen that interest rates are on a slight downward path, and it seems as if investment volumes are starting to rise back up across the main European markets. Of course, Greece is slightly out of sync with the other markets. We've had fairly strong growth, as we've heard today, over the last 3 or 4 years, as Greece is playing catch-up after 10 years of crisis. So, Ilona, I'd like to start with you, if I may. I'd like to talk about retail real estate. What are the sort of trends currently impacting retail real estate? We hear about the rise of e-commerce, we hear about experiential real estate, we hear about phygital. What does this mean in practice for shops on high streets, for shops in shopping centres?
Yeah, so basically, if you're looking, I'm in Amsterdam, so I have a better Benelux version of the answer. But I think in general, after the pandemic, a lot of businesses, physical businesses, had to invest into digital because they were losing traction and they were about to close. So I think it's really important to have the phygital concept, that it has to be both. But it's very important that if you do have a physical store, that it is different, unique in some way. And experience is experiential, meaning that you're giving an experience to your customer that they will want to come back again, is key, which means that it's no longer just a shop, it's no longer just a store. It has to be something where what we call like a lifestyle magazine. So constantly you need to reconsider and change patterns of what you're doing in your business, seasonally, by trend. So that's the most important aspects of phygital.
Okay. Can you tell us a bit about Six and Sons, how this concept works in Amsterdam?
Yeah, well, we started just before COVID, and we're still here, so so that's a good thing. But Six and Sons is actually a platform for sustainable entrepreneurs. So what we have is over 170 entrepreneurs in one single space. We're an incubator. The idea is to take different entrepreneurs from all over internationally, but locally as well, and give them a platform so they can showcase their work. And if they succeed, they stay. So it's like a permanent pop-up. So it really gives brands and entrepreneurs an opportunity to get into a market.
Okay. Are you doing any business with Greek companies? Have you looked at the Greece market? Is this something which you think could apply here?
I think it applies in any major cities. I had a walk today in the main streets, shopping areas, and to me it could be any city in the world. I don't see anything that sort of says, wow, this is Athens. It's very sad in my view that it doesn't have the cultural aspect of it. And I think that in each capital city, it would be great to have something where it's culturally diverse, but also showcases local talent. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be something that we can work on. Okay, great. Let me move on to Dimitris. You advise large companies on their location on a strategic level. What are some of the global and macro trends which are driving the locational preferences of large companies at the moment?
Sure. Actually, as Ilona was speaking, I was thinking that it's great that we started with the retail because what is happening now in the office sector is exactly what happened in the retail sector about 15, 20 years ago. So the e-commerce led to a right sizing on the retail side. There has been a lot of talk in the past 10 years about the death of the mall and the death of the physical shops. We see that the answer is not either full remote or full physical. Is somewhere in between, is the hybrid, and is exactly what is happening at the moment with the office sector. If we look at the underlying drivers, there are 4 key underlying drivers. The first one is talent. The talent expectations are changing, especially post-COVID has been quite a big focus on well-being, wellness, and also the social impact. The second one is the ESG, in terms of the carbon footprint, as well as the S in the ESG is very important and is also connected to the talent side. The third one is the digitization, as you mentioned, Kenny, and also the AI, and what does it mean in terms of the technology we have now, in terms of how we work and how we live. And already there's been a lot of shift to hybrid working, but we haven't really seen yet the technology. We're still using Teams and Zoom, and this is something I would say archaic because it's just video. But we haven't seen, for example, virtual reality and how this will impact the way we work. So there's a lot of things to happen over the next few years in terms of the changes in how we work, as well as the talent, because we talk about AI and digitization in terms of the type of talent the companies are targeting. And then the final element is the cost, which is very important. A lot of cost pressure. Kenny, you mentioned about the interest rates, about the geopolitical situation. So there's a lot of pressure for companies to address the cost. So these are the 4 underlying drivers. They're all connected, obviously. But then how this affects the physical space, hybrid working helps actually to address all of these points. Yep. So if we think about from talent perspective, it provides to talent the option to choose when and where to work. It opens to a more diverse talent, so addresses the D&I as well as the overall social impact in terms of providing access to people from wherever they are to work. On the ESG, we talk about less space, so less carbon footprint, less commuting, so that's an impact there. And then in terms of the technology and with the cost, again, with less space, less cost, and then with the tools we have, we can address that. So hybrid actually is very important. that has an impact then in terms of what is the future of the office. So the role of the office is changing. It's not a place where people are going there to do individual work. It's a place for innovation, for collaboration, for connecting with the company culture.
Yep.
And that means that we need to change the space. And if we see we've been running quite a lot of surveys with Cushman, and we run a survey with corporate real estate decision makers. When we ask them about some of the elements in the office, we looked at the amount of the common areas. We see that there is a shift increase on the percentage of the common areas in the office from 20 to 30% pre-COVID to 40, 50%, almost doubling the amenities and this type of areas. And then the final part, which is going to your question about how companies are taking decisions, is the location strategy. Yeah. Because by changing the role of the office, we change the size, we move to a less space but higher quality of space. But then also we are able to recruit talent wherever the talent is, which means that we start looking at seeing actually at the moment trends where companies are setting up operations outside of the typical markets. Not, for example, London, but seeing a lot of growth, for example, in Leeds or in Birmingham and other markets. The same thing happens not at the national level, but also at the international level, where companies start moving operations to locations that provide better quality of living and lower cost of living. A very interesting example is Citigroup, that a couple of years ago they announced they set up a new investment bank hub in Malaga. In their press release, specifically, they mentioned the 330 days of sunshine to attract young talent to compete with the other banks. They started with 30 roles, and they received thousands of CVs. At the moment, they have 300 roles that they hired.
Sure.
And they continue growing. Probably you've heard about Malaga, because Malaga actually is one of the fastest growing markets in Spain at the moment. There is a big focus of international. So there is an opportunity there for Greece when we talk about lifestyle, cost of living, sure, and kind of the living conditions.
Sure, sure. And presumably these trends, let's say in office locations, where basically, you can work from home, or you can work in other locations, presumably that's also having a spill-on impact on the residential market in some of these areas, in cities, in countries.
Absolutely. If you think about it.
And the type of residential that's being demanded.
Exactly. So we talk about right sizing on the office side. We will be spending less time in the offices, so that means that we need probably less space. But then we will be spending more time at home.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, you probably need more space at home, especially if you have a couple that they both might work hybrid. Again, I'm not talking about fully remote, because I generally believe that the future is hybrid. It's both. You need the office, but also there is that option of the hybrid, and that has an impact on the residential, absolutely. So we expect that there will be a growth in terms of the demands from the size of the average size of the flats or apartments or houses, as people will spend more time there, and also in terms of the location that will change in terms of the residential. For example, you don't need to be, in terms of the catchment area from commuting, you don't need to be, for example, within an hour of commute. You can be 3 hours away,
yep,
assuming you have the right infrastructure, right? So if you go to the office once a week or once every couple of weeks, you can live in Varkiza, for example, and work in the center, or you can live in Leeds, or you can live in, and this is happening actually in the Netherlands for many years now, the hybrid working. So that changes the landscape in terms of where people are going to be looking to live. So people will start choosing first where to live, and then where to work.
Okay, that's very interesting. Alexis, you're involved in residential investment, residential development. What sort of trends are you seeing in the residential market here in internationally or here in Greece, and how do you see the market developing going forward?
Καλησπέρα και από μένα. We'll do it in English. My friend Dimitris lives in London. I rarely speak in English, so excuse me for this. So we do residential as architects for 20 plus years, as developers with Wealth Avenue PLC, our listed company in the stock exchange for the last couple of years. So residential buildings were always the basic pillar in Greek economy, in Greek real estate, and it remains.
Yeah.
We see a boom in Greek real estate in the last 3 or 4 years. It's easy to explain. We had 12 years of no new buildings. I'm now 41. I have 3 little girls. So my generation that needs to go to a new house has no new buildings to go to live. So it's a great opportunity for local developers because there is a demand from the Greek market, although it's very expensive for the locals.
Yep.
Most of the locals, not all the locals. It's cheap for the foreigners, because it's true, we live in the best country in the world. It's the sunshine, it's the climate, everything is fine here. So one basic factor, as Dimitris said, we have hybrid working. So when we study, like from architectural point of view, a new building, we have to consider it that we don't need only 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. I have 3 girls. We need 1 more space to work, or 2 more spaces. So we have to study buildings from this new point of view. We have bigger apartments. It means also more expensive apartments. This goes on and on. But I think for the Greek real estate, if nothing big happens like World War III, something like this, for a couple of years, 3, 4, or 5, because many foreigners come here, it will continue going up. It's not a bubble yet. There is a study from the Central Bank of Greece that this month we have again the prices that we have before crisis, 2009. But on the same time, we have half building permits, half built square meters.
No.
So we have a lot of way to go in Greece. Not only in Athens, all around Greece.
Still a lack of supply.
Yes. They say that we have a lack of 200,000 apartments still now, new apartments.
How important is energy-efficient features and sustainable features in new construction, residential? And is there a premium are buyers willing to pay for high energy certificate rating?
After the big crisis in Greece and after COVID, we have 2 very good things happening for me. One, most of the buildings are designed by architects. This is a country where every engineer can design an apartment or a house. But the market now demands good architecture. Most of the apartment buildings are nice. They go to A+ or A++. It's energy efficient, not like LEED or BREEAM, but it's better than it was before. And the market now starts to pay for it. Because before COVID and before the crisis, no one cared about this.
Yeah.
So it's a trend coming
And also you're seeing that there's a reduction in operational costs, in electricity costs.
Yes, because energy is very expensive.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we seek for solutions to have more energy-efficient buildings.
Yeah. Ilona, in countries like Holland, obviously, the green buildings, energy-efficient buildings, were adopted very, very, very early in this stage in the cycle, let's say. Where could Greece see itself going in the next few years? We have a lot of LEED certified buildings, BREEAM certified. What else could we see from countries like the Netherlands?
Well, we just spoke about this earlier, the Edge, which is the most sustainable building in the world, apparently, It's a smart building because it has an infrastructure with a lot of sensors and solar panels, and it's an office building.
Yeah.
But I think what is interesting is, if you think about Athens, what's iconic about Athens is the Parthenon. It would be amazing if there was a green building, which was, the icon.
Yeah.
And I think once a city or, let's say, a country focuses on creating something iconic, then everyone else will follow, because it's like, well, this is what we need to showcase. This is what we need in order to get international recognition, but also for foreign investment, because it's showcasing. The Netherlands is so saturated, and there is so little space and not enough housing, and there is no option, but like what we were talking about, hybrid, and you don't really have an option. Like if you live in Rotterdam and you have to commute from Amsterdam, not Amsterdam, but another very small, it takes 2.5 hours. So
Wow.
it's such a small country, but the commutes are terrible. So you have to work from home at some point. So I think that let's say, long-term goals would be that it's imperative to have sustainable buildings where it's about social, about community, locations. It shouldn't just be
mixed use buildings, retail, office,
exactly. And they don't have to be in the center of the city.
Yes, yeah.
And I think Athens is a very social city. Everyone likes to drink their coffee. And I think
not only coffee.
so it would be great to have pockets of, beautiful places to be.
Interesting. But I see we're running out of time. Dimitris, I'd just like to just very briefly touch on the logistics market. I know we heard on the panels earlier about this. What are sort of the locational, let's say, trends driving, logistics at the moment? What's happening on a sort of a international scale?
Sure, very, very quickly and very high level. So we see that there is a trend of reshoring in terms of companies trying to bring some of the production back closer to where is the actual market. And this is related, of course, to supply chain risks. There are geopolitical risks. And also technology helps with that because a lot of things can be automated, so you can actually even manage the costs. But also we see there is a lot of let's say, trade war you see now between the US and China in terms of the tariffs and, for example, the US trying to protect the IP on the semiconductors, so they're trying to bring the production of semiconductors in the US, right? Yeah. So that definitely has a big impact on the location strategy. So we see a lot of projects where we try now to redesign and kind of revisit the location strategy of the production facilities. So I would say that's one of the key trends we see at the moment.
Okay. And Alexis, in terms of technology and digitization, I understand you've looked at a number of different platforms and ways of investing in real estate. How could this
My
evolve?
original idea for Wealth Avenue PLC is like a fund for American investors. So altogether, they can invest in real estate, because to do it on your own, it's pretty expensive. You need expertise,
Sure.
you need diversification of risk. So for 2 years now, we have prepared a platform for tokenization.
Tokenization.
The Greek regulation is not ready yet for us. Now crowdfunding has started in Greece, so we'll see if we do it through crowdfunding or tokenization, but it is the option for a small investor with 1,000 euros, 100 euros, 10,000 euros to have not ownership, but a part of a real estate that can give him some money back every year, every month, and so on.
Sure. Yeah, these platforms, you see them.
Yes, but in terms of the P2P lending, tokenization is so I can make money through an investment that already exists.
Okay, great. I see we run out of time. Is there any final comments in terms of the outlook? Is the outlook positive, the immediate outlook? Are we optimistic about the prospects of the market.
You can do the closing.
Okay. I just ask questions. I'm not here to give an opinion.
Maybe just to add one comment, because we discuss about global trends, but if we want to make it a bit more specific to the Athens market, some of the things.
Yeah.
And every time I talk about these global trends, everyone says, "Oh, Athens is different. Athens is different." Yes, Athens is different, and that's why we have our partner here, the Cushman Wakefield properties, where we get the data, local data, to look at the trends here. The market has been a little bit behind because of the crisis, so there hasn't been a lot of supply of, for example, specifically Grade A office space. So there is a lack of that. There is increasing demand for Grade A space, and we're a little bit behind. So that means that what we see in the other markets around the world where we see right sizing might come a little bit later. So we have at least probably 3 to 5 years of opportunities here. But if we want to think long term, we will eventually follow the trends that take place globally. So yes, we are different in Athens, but at the same time, things that happen across,
it's a matter of time to catch up.
It will come.
Great. Okay, time's up. Thank you very much to our panel. Thank you very much for being here. And I guess that's the last panel of Prodexpo for today.